Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on mysterious and weird, true stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Case file number 534, written by amysticfox. This homeless man has a secret. A really interesting thing happened to me one day when I was out for coffee with my friend. So we drank our coffees on a really ordinary day, then separated our ways and I headed home. As I was walking on the sidewalk, a hippie-looking man appeared coming towards me. Rasta hair, red bandana on his head, green sunglasses, tattoos and piercings on his face, torn and old clothes. This guy immediately caught my attention because he's not the type of guy that we used to see every day, so I looked at him carefully as we passed by. Also, he had a weird way of walking without swinging his arms and kept him close to his legs. Anyway, after we passed each other, we started walking in opposite directions, and about 10 minutes later, I entered the alley where my house was located, and as soon as I turned left, I saw the same guy coming out of the street exactly where my house is located. Literally the same guy, and here's where things started to get a bit complicated and bizarre. In order for him to enter the street where my house is located before me, he had to walk through exactly the same way as I walked. We were moving in opposite directions, and it was impossible for him to pass me and enter the street before me, then leave without me noticing him. There are no shortcuts and no other way. Also, I live in a small neighborhood that ends with a deadlock, and I know everyone here. Anyway, as soon as I saw him, I was shocked, and I couldn't hide my confusion on my face, and gave him a very strange look as I passed him. However, he continued on his way as if nothing weird happened, and I never saw him again. Case notes, file number 534. This is peculiar. This must be the third, maybe even the fourth glitch I've read involving a duplicating homeless person, but specifically homeless. What's up with them? Are they all NPCs? Well, of course not, but maybe more frequently they are? I know I was homeless myself a decade ago, so I know they can't all be. Still, there's a definitive and clear pattern here, which I can't ignore. It really is like he faded out of rendering and was plopped back up ahead of you for some reason. Maybe he was important in your life path, somehow. I have a feeling you'll see him again. Bonus file, written by emeraldwineglass. My wife was right, and I'm going crazy. For as long as I've known my wife, she's mentioned growing up in a haunted house. I always assumed she was joking, because she always brought it up in quite a light-hearted way and never went into too much detail. It was a big old house, and I figured she was talking about weird old house noises. The house belonged to her great-aunt, who raised my wife for most of her childhood. Her great-aunt recently passed away, and her great-aunt's daughter, who my wife calls her aunt, though technically she's her second cousin or something, I'll be referring to her as her aunt, now owns the house. After my wife's great-aunt passed, we went to stay in the house for 4 nights to attend the funeral and spend time with my wife's family, as we live in another state. When we got there, my wife and her aunt were chatting and mentioned that they thought my wife's great-aunt might join the ghosts already haunting the house. I still didn't consider that they might be serious. The first night we spent there, I woke up in the middle of the night and noticed someone standing in the corner of the room besides the door. Thinking it was my wife, I asked what she was doing. This woke up my wife, who was actually sleeping beside me. I said, I thought I saw someone in the room with us, but it must just be my eyes playing tricks on me. She said, the person in the corner next to the door? Yeah, don't worry about it. I almost pissed myself. I thought there was some creep in the room and my wife was too sleepy to process it. I grabbed my phone to call the police, but when my phone lit up the room, I saw there was no one there. There wasn't even a weird shape that I might have mistaken for a person. The door was closed, so it wasn't like there could have been someone there who left the room in the moments I was looking away to grab my phone. I would have heard the door open and close. My wife told me it was common to see shadowy people in the night, but I shouldn't worry because they don't do anything. She fell back asleep right after that. But I just lay there awake the whole night wondering what the hell just happened. This is not normal to me. The next morning, I asked my wife about it, and she said she wasn't kidding about the house being haunted. People who spend the night in the house regularly see and hear ghosts, but they've never hurt anyone or caused any real problems. I remained skeptical even after the next night, which had been after the funeral, and my wife and aunt both reported they'd been visited in their dreams by my wife's great-aunt. So far, in my mind, everything was weird but explainable. The figure in the room could have been a strange trick of the light. My wife and her aunt had just attended the funeral of their loved one, and it made sense for them to both dream about her that night. The third night, I was kept awake for hours by the constant sound of footsteps pacing around the house. My wife also heard them, but said it was normal and I shouldn't worry, and she fell asleep easily. A few times during the night, I got up to look around the house for the source of the noise. I even did a couple of laps of the outside of the house in case there was someone outside. I never saw anyone walking around. At one point, I was in the lounge room and heard footsteps from the kitchen, and called out to ask if there was anyone there. My wife's aunt opened her bedroom door and said she could hear the footsteps too, and just like my wife, she told me it was normal and there was no cause for concern. Then there was a sound of a drawer opening in the kitchen, which we both reacted to, and I went to check it out and found the cutlery drawer open. My wife's aunt, who'd come to the kitchen too, simply closed the drawer, commented with a mild annoyance that the ghosts are always leaving things open, so messy, and went back to bed, leaving me to my existential crisis. I could not come up with a way to explain that. We both heard footsteps, both heard the drawer open at the same time, and there was no one there and no way out of the kitchen except for past us. I tried staying on the couch to try and catch the mystery walker, and there was multiple times I heard footsteps pass through the lounge room, but I never saw anything at all. Eventually I gave up and went back to bed. Nothing really happened the final night, though we woke up to several cabinets open and no one remembered leaving them open, though that could be explained by someone just forgetting or even sleepwalking. Even so, the footsteps still bothered me, and the shadowy person from the first night and cabinets opened on the final night made me nervous in light of everything that happened on the third night. Up until now, I've always scoffed at the idea of the paranormal, but I just can't reconcile my experiences in that house with my skepticism. Talking to my wife's family revealed that everyone who stayed in the house believes it's haunted, because they've had at least one completely unexplainable experience there. They all report that the ghosts leave people alone for the most part, though some who lived there for a long time as children, including my wife and her aunt, have described meeting people they thought were probably ghosts and having positive, but strange, interactions with them. Bonus file, written by Throwaway 0943. A cat skull as an omen of death. I don't really know where to post this, if it is indeed paranormal or what. Basically, I had a nightmare last night. It was one of those where the content itself wasn't so scary, but the general vibe was enough to make you crap your pants, you know? Like being chased by the Pringles floating head down a dark corridor or something. It was really specific, but you know what I mean. Anyway, in my dream last night, I vividly recall the words, "Beware the skeleton of the cat in the sand, it is an omen," being spoken to me again and again, by whom I don't know. And I remember it because that's objectively a really weird thing to dream about. But like in the dream, the cat skeleton in the sand was supposed to portend something catastrophic coming in my life, like maybe a death, a loss, something, just bad. And that phrase was just repeated over and over until I woke up sweating. Well, today I was stressed with work, so I did what I do often and took a lunchtime walk down the beach near my house. I've done this every couple days since the start of the pandemic. I was looking at the seabirds, listening to the water lap against the shore, and just generally feeling pretty chill down there. That's when I saw it, and I almost threw up right there. Right down on the beach, in the sand, was undeniably a cat skull, maybe a foot away. There was its spine and its legs, a rib or two, some various other bones, but it was all there, probably left by the hawks or owls in the area. A friggin' cat skeleton in the sand, just like my dream said. I am not a spiritual person, I'm not a religious person, but I cannot deny this is weird as hell, and I'm not really sure how to process it or what it means. What does it mean if you have a really specific thing in a dream that actually happens the very next day? What kind of omen even is a dead cat? Is this something spiritual happening? Absolutely any insight would be super appreciated. I just lost my mom last year. I don't think I have the emotional capacity to deal with a bad omen. But also, I want to understand. Any thoughts welcomed here. Update. I got a call this afternoon that a family member has died. She was not in great health, so I guess it's not that great a shock as someone young and agile kicking the bucket, but we were still very close. I don't think it's a coincidence anymore. Damn, man, I'm gonna be missing in action for a few days. I have absolutely no words.